Marco Reus is one of the most universally liked footballers today. He never gets into any drama or beef, and his undying loyalty to Borussia Dortmund, despite having interest from Real Madrid, Barcelona, and Bayern Munich over the years, is extremely commendable. But for the most part, that very same loyalty, besides his injury issues, is the reason why Marco Reus has won very little significant silverware in his career. And because of this, Marco Reus is often categorized as one of the unluckiest footballers of all time. So what are some moments in Marco Reus' career that display his misfortune in the sport? Well, let's take a look. Let's start off with the 2012-13 Champions League campaign. Now, for those of you who don't know, this was Marco Reus' very first season with Borussia Dortmund. That's right, contrary to popular belief, Reus was not a homegrown talent of Borussia Dortmund. In fact, despite being born and raised in Dortmund, Germany, and also being a part of the Borussia Dortmund Academy for 10 years, Marco Reus decided to leave the Black and Yellow Academy in 2006 to join the under-19 team of 3rd Division side Rot-Weiss Island. The reason for this was because Reus felt like he wasn't getting enough game time, and as a young player, it's important to play, so he had to take a step down, respectfully, and play for a different club. Marco Reus would then play one season of senior team football for this 3rd Division German side, helping them gain promotion, before a plethora of Bundesliga clubs started to take notice. And one of these top flight German clubs was Borussia Mönchengladbach, who secured an agreement with Marco Reus in 2009 and had him signed for the club. At Gladbach, Marco Reus would quickly develop himself as a rising superstar in Germany, and would start to become the main face of the Borussia Mönchengladbach team. In fact, in the 2011-12 season, Marco Reus would show his prolific goal-scoring ability, and in the first 13 games of the campaign, he would score 10 goals, including a hat-trick in one of those games. Not only that, in total for the 2011-12 campaign, Marco Reus would get himself 21 goals and 14 assists in 37 games, meaning he almost got a goal contribution in every single game for himself. Now obviously, with stats like this, the upper echelon of Bundesliga clubs would start to take notice, and one of them would be his beloved club of Borussia Dortmund, a side he's always loved as a kid. Jurgen Klopp, the manager at the time, grew extremely fond of the way Marco Reus played, so that's when in 2012, Marco Reus would sign with his former academy club for a transfer fee of 17.1 million euros. Now, one of the biggest reasons why Reus joined Dortmund, despite the club being his true love, was that Borussia Dortmund were on top of German football at the time. In fact, despite Bayern Munich's monopoly over the league, Jurgen Klopp's Dortmund won the Bundesliga twice in a row, and this is the first time that any German club has done this, besides Bayern Munich, since 1982. And with Borussia Dortmund pretty much getting guaranteed Champions League football more often than not, Marco Reus found that this Dortmund move would be a big upgrade in his career. And the first 2012-13 campaign at Reus' time at Borussia Dortmund showed why that this was maybe a sign for great things to come. That's because in this 12-13 season, Marco Reus would manage to get 19 goals and 16 assists in just 49 games, while at the same time forming an incredible partnership with the likes of Robert Lewandowski, Mario Götze, Ilkay Gundogan, etc. Additionally, Borussia Dortmund would then go on and proceed to have one of the best Champions League campaign runs of all time, with them topping a group containing the likes of Real Madrid, Ajax, and Manchester City, while being undefeated at the same time, beat a Shakhtar side 5-2 on aggregate in the round of 16, beat a Malaga side in the quarterfinals 3-2 on aggregate, with Reus assisting and scoring 1 goal each, and then destroying Real Madrid 4-3 in the semifinals, with Marco Reus assisting 2 goals in the 4-1 thrashing of Madrid in the first leg. With Marco Reus proving to be an essential piece for Dortmund, the Black and Yellow would make the Champions League final for only the second time in their history, and in the final, they would beat their German rivals, Bayern Munich, at Wembley for a prestigious trophy. Now, this game was bound to be heated, and that's because around a month before the final between the two sides, Bayern Munich would announce that they signed Dortmund's Mario Götze, one of the key pieces for Dortmund that year, and he would join the Munich side in the following season. This would obviously cause disruption in the Borussia Dortmund locker room, and in fact, Mario Götze was shown to Marco Reus' house to tell him that he would be joining Bayern before the news broke out to the public, and Reus publicly said that he felt disappointed as he felt that him and Götze would be the next dynamic duo. However, Mario Götze wouldn't be the only player that will leave Marco Reus at his time with Borussia Dortmund and go on to achieve great things with another club. Like literally, Lewandowski did the same thing and joined Bayern and won the Champions League with them. Gundogan and Holland would do the same thing and win everything with Manchester City, and Jude Bellingham recently did that and also won a league title and a Champions League with Madrid. But I'm getting a little too ahead of myself, so let's go back to the Champions League final against Bayern Munich. Now, Borussia Dortmund were on fire heading into the game, but they would miss one of their key players, Mario Götze, due to injury. Some people to this day still believe that Mario Götze faked an injury to not play in the Champions League final against his future club, but I don't really think that this could be true. Regardless, going back to Reus, even though he would play his part in the final, winning aside a penalty that got themselves back in the game, Robin would score a last-minute goal, and this would end Reus' dream of winning a Champions League trophy that season for his side that he always loved. But this was only the start of Marco Reus' very long career with Borussia Dortmund, so there was still a lot of time to achieve great things in this beautiful game. But sadly, the unluckiness only continues from here. Let's now move on to the 2014 World Cup, an occasion that Marco Reus would feel happy for his teammates, but heartbroken himself. Heading into the World's Tournament, Marco Reus would have one of the best seasons in his career. That's because in the 44 games that he played for Borussia Dortmund in that campaign, he would score 23 goals and get 22 assists, meaning he got more than a goal contribution in every game that he played. These are literally Ballon d'Or level stats. Sadly for club level though, Borussia Dortmund would have a rough season once again, and despite winning the German Super Cup with his team and getting the top assist provider and player of the season individually, his side will lose the DFB Pokal Cup final to Bayern Munich 2-0, with Robin and Muller scoring 2 late goals to seal their fate. Reus really lost another final to Bayern Munich. It must have been rough for him. And although at club level, things might have not gone well for him silverware wise, Marco Reus still had a great chance to add a trophy on the international stage, with him being named to the 2014 World Cup squad for Germany, who were one of the favorites heading into the competition in Brazil. Sadly though, 10 days before the World Cup, Marco Reus would participate in a friendly against Armenia for his national team, and in this game, he would go down injured. And although it didn't look too bad initially, it was confirmed that Marco Reus sustained a long-term injury, and he wouldn't be able to participate for Germany at the 2014 World Cup. Instead, Mustafi, a football meme, would go in his place, and at the tournament, Germany would go all the way and win their 4th ever World Cup, with his once teammate that betrayed him, Mario Götze, scoring the winner against Argentina in the final to win it. And although during the celebrations, Götze was lifting up Reus' shirt to pay respect to him and make sure nobody forgets that Reus would have been a part of this team, Marco Reus wouldn't officially be rewarded with a medal or any type of silverware for Germany winning the World Cup. Now Reus would finally get to play the World Cup in 2018, but Germany would have their worst World Cup ever and crash out in the group stages. And then for the 2022 edition, Marco Reus was in hot form heading into it, but got injured again, forcing him out of the World's tournament for the 2nd time. But regardless of that, I just know that missing the 2014 World Cup hurts the most, because if it weren't for an injury 10 days before the tournament, Reus would have won the biggest prize in football. Let's now skip over to the 2022-23 Bundesliga campaign, but really quickly before we get on with that, please remember to subscribe to the channel. I'd really appreciate it and it means a lot, so thank you. And also if you guys can, follow my Twitter and my Instagram, both at Nabuto, if you just want to hear my thoughts on football games, transfers, and overall just to get to know me more. So if you want to, feel free to hit me up with that follow. Thank you. Anyways, during the time skip that I just mentioned, Marco Reus wouldn't achieve too much for his side collectively. He would only go on and win 2 DFB Pokal Cups for Borussia Dortmund throughout this period, which is still decent but not the greatest, and then would only win a total of 3 German Super Cups, and this is basically the Community Shield of Germany. So I wouldn't really say this is super prestigious or anything like that, but he did win 2 German Footballer of the Year awards for Germany overall, a total of 3 Bundesliga Player of the Seasons, and even made the cover for FIFA, which is a great accomplishment. However, he could have won a lot more collective trophies if he just jumped ship and joined the likes of Real Madrid, Bayern Munich, or Barcelona, who are all seriously interested in signing Reus. But Marco only wanted to win trophies for the black and yellow, and nowhere else. And finally, in the 2022-23 Bundesliga campaign, it seemed like all the hard work might pay off, with Borussia Dortmund having a great shot at winning the Bundesliga for the first time in like 11 years. All Borussia Dortmund had to do was to beat Mainz on the last match day, but instead, Dortmund went down 2-0 within 25 minutes, and despite Rafael Guerreiro scoring in the 69th minute and Nicolas Süle scoring in the 90+6 minute to bring the game back even, Jamal Musiala scored an 89th minute winner for Bayern in their game, and this meant that Bayern won the league on goal difference, stealing Marco Reus' opportunity to win his first Bundesliga title for Borussia Dortmund and himself ever. It was a heartbreaking moment for sure, especially when everything was in Borussia Dortmund's hands, but instead, Reus was left with tears of sadness instead of happiness after the last game. In total, Marco Reus has been in Bundesliga runners-up 7 times, and with it being the last year on his contract, it seemed like he couldn't take the runners-up thing much longer. However, instead, Reus was signed a 1-year extension for Borussia Dortmund to play for them in the 2023-24 season, and this could have been one for the history books. That's because in this 2023-24 season, against all odds, Borussia Dortmund would top their Champions League group of death, containing the likes of PSG, AC Milan, and Newcastle. They would then go on and beat PSV Eindhoven in the round of 16, with Marco Reus scoring a goal in the second leg, beat Atletico Madrid in a very entertaining quarterfinal clash, and surprisingly beat PSG to make the Champions League final for only the 3rd time in their history. And Marco Reus was set to return to Wembley, the same stadium where he lost his first Champions League final. Honestly, it kind of felt like the universe aligned itself for Marco Reus to win his first major trophy in his career. But sadly, sometimes a fairy tale can end in heartbreak, and this one did for Marco Reus. That's because in the Champions League final, Borussia Dortmund were set to play Real Madrid, and the last Champions League final that they lost was all the way back in 1981 to Liverpool, so it felt unlikely from the start that Dortmund were going to pull this off. But miracles happen, and with the story behind Marco Reus, it felt like everybody wanted him to win. But a Carvajal dagger in the second half, which literally happened 1 minute after Marco Reus was subbed on, and then Vinicius Jr. pouncing on a mistake to score his second Champions League final goal, meant that Marco Reus would end this season in heartbreak. But that's not it, because Marco Reus' time with Borussia Borussia Dortmund would come to an end, with Reus announcing that he was going to leave the club that he loves so much at the end of the season. Therefore, the Champions League final was the very last game that Marco Reus was going to play for this club. Now, despite everybody loving Marco Reus, it is fair to say that he didn't accomplish much throughout his career. Yes, Marco Reus was one of the best players in the Bundesliga for the past decade, but due to his injury issues, forcing him to miss around 1,322 days of football total, and the fact that Borussia Dortmund always somehow choked when it came to winning the Bundesliga title or a Champions League, Reus didn't accomplish much silverware in his time in football. And maybe if he moved somewhere else, he could have won a lot more. But at the end of the day, Marco Reus has left a legacy behind at Borussia Dortmund and in German football as a whole, and his impact goes beyond winning silverware. He's a legend, and the footballing world will remember him and his time with Dortmund. Anyways, this has been some of the most unlucky moments in Marco Reus's career. And if you enjoyed this video, please remember to subscribe to the channel, I'd really appreciate it. And please be sure to follow my Twitter and my Instagram. The links are in my YouTube description. And last but not least, if you want to learn more about the rise of a modern day German superstar, Florian Wirtz, you definitely want to check out this video right here. You won't regret it.